Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy here. So I don't know about you guys, but sometimes digging in all these different numbers like inflation and unemployment and all the different data that's put out by the government, it's very, very hard to figure out and consume. And one of the things that lately I've been digging into more because I'm trying to invest in real estate and I want to know kind of where people are going, what obviously the migration patterns of where they're moving to, but more importantly, are they getting jobs there? And what's the employment base in that particular state or city? And this is a very important component, especially as you guys are looking to invest. Because if you're investing in, let's say, single family housing, and you have really high unemployment, for example, and in addition, you have forbearance and mortgage defaults, that could be a market that's headed south. And on the other side of that, it could be that the unemployment numbers, they're going down, and that the demand for an area might be going up. And so housing prices might be going up, and so therefore you want to be ahead of that. In either case, you just need to know what's happening on a local level and not just nationally and not just what's reported. So I decided to do a video on unemployment as I dug in more and I've spent hours on this topic trying to figure out exactly what really is the real story. And I found myself looking at two things. The first one was, are we really in a recovery? And what is really the unemployment rate? Those are the two things that I kept searching for, because as I watched the news and I watched the politicians and I watched the media, say that we're in a recovery or that we're not in a recovery or quote the different unemployment rates, it's super confusing because from what I see being boots on the ground, there's a lot of people in real trouble right now. There's a lot of people that are losing their jobs. There's a lot of people that are furloughed. There's a lot of people that are full-time that have moved to part-time. And there's a lot of discouraged workers right now. And so it's all very confusing as I'm seeing all this great data that we're recovering, and it just doesn't feel like we are. So I started to dig in a little bit more. So let's start with the facts. Right now, the government is saying that we are at 7.9% unemployment. So if you take a look at that, the government basically is saying that the entire nation is 7.9% unemployment, or 12.6 million people. These are really important numbers that you need to digest right now. The 7.9% and the 12.6 million, those are the numbers that are published. Those are the numbers that you're going to see in the media. Those are the numbers that the politicians are going to quote. And any kind of recovery is literally just people that went back to work after everyone was told to go home in March during the coronavirus. So the recovery really is just people that went back to work that originally had jobs. So that's what they're calling the recovery, and that's not really recovery. And what we're really trying to figure out is when all this dust settles, what's the real unemployment number going to be? What should we be concerned about, and who's really going to be out of work and who's going to be back to work? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So the first thing that I had to do was I had to take a look at how does the government actually measure unemployment? Because that's really where you need to go. You need to figure out how do they calculate all this information. What I found was very, very interesting. So in my search for how was unemployment measured, I learned that there's actually 6 different measurements. There's what they call U1, unemployment 1, U2, U3, U4, U5, and U6. So the government actually measures unemployment in 6 different categories. What's most important for you to understand is the one that they report to the media, the one the politicians are talking about, is U3. So the question is, what are these categories and what is U3? So if you go to the bls.gov, bls.gov, you're going to find the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And if you think about it, the Labor Department tracks all of this data, the unemployment data, the people that are working, the seasonal workers, all of that. It's all tracked on that website. It's public. Go check it out. That's where I got all the data for this particular video. So let's go into the 6 categories so we can look at the way the government uses alternative measures to calculate the unemployment. so that you can make better decisions going forward on your investment decisions. So U1, persons unemployed 15 weeks or longer as part of the civilian labor force. U2, job losers and persons who completed temporary jobs as a percent of the civilian labor force. U3, total unemployed as a percent of the civilian labor force. This is the official unemployment rate. U4, total unemployed plus discouraged workers as a percent of the civilian labor force plus discouraged workers. U5, total unemployed plus discouraged workers plus all other persons marginally attached to the labor force as a percent of the civilian labor force plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force. U6, total unemployed plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force plus total employed part-time for economic reasons as a percentage of the civilian labor force plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force. So I don't know about you guys, but those are all super confusing. And it looks to me like the government is trying to put people in all these different boxes and report U3. And that's actually what the point of this video is for. Because I want you to take a look at the numbers as reported from September 2019 to September 2020, because those are the real figures. More importantly, what I really want you to look at as you guys move forward and you make your investment decisions is this number here, the U6 number. That's the most meaningful number. And we're going to go into the math in a little bit to show you why. But there's a massive difference between what the government reports and what the real number is, all on the government's own website at www.bls.gov. Go take a look. So let's take a look at these unemployment rates within a one-year span, going back to September 2019 to September 2020. So in 2019, the U3 rate was 3.5%. And I already told you right now, the media is reporting the rate in 2020 at 7.9%. Obviously, that's a big difference from here to here. But the story is even bigger than that. We need to move all the way down to U6 to actually see what the total employment is, and I'll explain why later. In 2019, the unemployment rate per the U6 was actually 6.5%. And as reported on the government's website right now, it's actually 12.8%. You don't need to be a math major to know that this is like a 5% difference. It's a massive number, and we're going to get into those numbers in a minute. So I think as you guys dig into this topic, and as you do, you should Google this stuff. Just Google U6, U3, unemployment rate, and all these different groups come up and are measuring this and are tracking this, and they have all different charts and analysis and all that, and I would encourage you to take a look at that. The one thing that's consistent is that they're all using the same rates from the BLS.gov. So that's good. What most of these people are saying is that this rate is very misleading and that the government is putting people into categories so that they can show a better recovery than there actually is at the moment. And so it's really important for you guys to use this rate going forward as you're looking to make good decisions with your money or somebody else's money. So now let's take a look at the math. What do these percentages mean, and what are the real unemployment numbers as far as real people, not just percentages? So here's what we know. We know that at 7.9%, there's 12.6 million people unemployed. That's what we know. You can go online. This is data. 7.9% equals 12.6 million people per the U3 data as shared on BLS.gov. So what does that mean? If you take 7.9% and divide it into 12.6 million people, then you can figure out what they're using as a measurement. So what they're using to generate this from the 7.9% is 159,473,000 people. So all you have to do is take the 12.8% unemployment rate and times it times this number, and you're going to get the real unemployment rate by people according to the U6. So we'll do that now. So when you take this number and you divide it by the real U6 number, the unemployment rate of 12.8, what you come up with is 20,400,000 people. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is a massively different picture than what's being reported right now in the US. This is almost 8 million people. So there's an 8 million person difference between what the people are telling you in the media, between what the politicians are saying, and what's really happening right now. So what I want you to pay attention to is if you dig a little bit deeper and you type in U6 by state on the government's own website, you're going to see what the data is by state. Because don't forget, the 7.9% unemployment U3, the 12.8% unemployment U6, those are averages by all the states. But if you dig a little bit deeper, which I would encourage you to do, as you start to make good investment decisions moving forward, you really need to take a look at what's happening in each individual state. So as an example, I pulled up this data, the individual U6 unemployment rate by state. And right now, here are the top four. California is at 15.1%. So do your own math. Hawaii is at 15.8%. Nevada is at 17%. And New York is at 14.3%, as according to U6 on the government's own website. So as you start to drill down and make decisions on purchasing, whether it's single family, multifamily, retail, commercial office, it doesn't really matter, these numbers start to affect you, especially now that the unemployment benefits have run out and the governments haven't figured out to get more money to the people, and we still have this coronavirus moving forward. Hopefully these numbers go down. Hopefully these people go back to work. Hopefully we don't have this kind of problem moving forward. But nobody's provided any kind of a solution, and nobody really knows what's going to happen to all these businesses, and nobody really knows what's going to happen when there's an end to this virus and the economy reopens up. And that's what we're trying to solve to. So be careful, as I've said before, not to catch a falling knife. You don't want to be in a situation where a state continues to slide with unemployment, because those people, as they begin to move and look for jobs and migrate around the country, which is happening right now, it's severely going to impact real estate in those individual local communities. The numbers that are being shown by the government right now omits millions and millions of people. It does not show people that are discouraged and are not looking for employment. It does not show people whose unemployment has run out. It does not show people that were full-time and are now part-time and want to be back at full-time. It doesn't show any of that. And one of the bigger issues we have facing us is all that stuff needs to be shored up, and those people are eventually going to come back into the workforce, and they're not being reported at all right now. One last thing. If you dig even deeper, you'll see that even these unemployment numbers are utilized on a sampling of only 60,000 households across the United States. That's it. 60,000 households determine our unemployment rate as compared to U3. So be very, very smart as you invest your dollars or you invest somebody else's dollars, and you really need to understand what's happening locally as this whole thing rolls out, and hopefully we get to an end of this very, very soon. So thanks for watching.